Topic 3. Nonverbal Communication. Objective. On completing this module, you should be able to identify the types of nonverbal communication. Pick on the thoughts and feelings of people based on their body language. Explain the significance of good listening skills.
Now that we've understood verbal communication, we will now know the other type of interpersonal communication called nonverbal communication. Nonverbal communication is the process of conveying a message to the recipient in the non-word format. It may individually or along with verbal communication act as an important message transmitter. Nonverbal communication includes pitch, sound, tone, volume, gestures, eye contact, facial expressions, etc. Nonverbal communication has the ability to convey the message more clearly. A verbal communication will be interesting only when the nonverbal communication is added to it. The importance of nonverbal communication is it strengthens verbal communication. It provides cues. It clarifies the verbal message. It creates culture. It adds meaning to the message.
Nonverbal communication involves nonverbal stimuli in a communication setting generated by the speaker that has potential message value for the receiver. It is sending and receiving messages in a variety of ways without the use of verbal codes or words. It may be either intentional or unintentional. Most often, the speaker remains unconscious of his/her nonverbal communications. Nonverbal communication is one of the key aspects of communication and has multiple functions. It is used to repeat or reiterate verbal messages. It can complement or contradict a verbal message. It often clarifies or displays the depth or intensity of the verbal message. It may be used as a substitution for verbal messages. It helps to regulate interactions.
Researchers say that a substantial portion of our communication includes nonverbal communication. Each one of us would respond to thousands of nonverbal communications each day. There are many types of nonverbal communication. Some of them are facial expression. Facial expression is responsible for a huge portion of nonverbal communication. It shows the emotions and feelings related to the message. Eye contact. Proper eye contact keeps the listener attentive. It can show feelings like happiness, anger, love, sadness, etc. Gestures. Gesture is a bodily action. It includes hand movements, movements on the face such as eyebrows, etc., and other body movements. Posture. The way we walk, we stand, we sit, etc., also communicates a lot of messages. Proximity. The distance we maintain while communicating with others shows our closeness to them. For example, we will be very close with our family members, but with strangers, we maintain a distance while we talk. Paralinguistics. Paralinguistics includes tone, pitch, rhythm, volume, and inflection. The way we use them gives different meanings. For example, if your voice is very loud, it means that you are angry. Haptics. Haptics is nothing but communication through touch. It transmits the message of affection, familiarity, sympathy, etc. Appearance. The way we present ourselves Dress code, our hairstyle, accessories, etc., tells about us. Dressing appropriate to the situation helps make a good impression.
A substantial portion of our communication happens to be nonverbal. Every day, we use hundreds of nonverbal cues and behaviors. Even the tiniest nonverbal details reveal a great deal about our personality, impact how we relate to other people. Shown here are the different types of nonverbal communication. Facial expressions make up a huge portion of nonverbal communication. While nonverbal communication and behavior can vary dramatically between cultures, the facial expressions for happiness, sadness, anger, and fear are similar throughout the world. Deliberate movements and signals communicate meaning without words. Certain gestures are arbitrary and related to the culture, and hence vary in usage from region to region. Paralinguistics refers to vocal communication, which is a part of the actual language. This includes factors such as tone of voice, loudness, inflection, and pitch. The tone of voice has a powerful influence on the meaning of the words. Posture and movement can also convey information about the person and his or her attitude toward the message being delivered. Body language can be very subtle in nature as well. Proxemics refers to the amount of distance required and the amount of space perceived as appropriate by different people in different circumstances. These are influenced by factors such as social norms, situational factors, personality characteristics, and level of familiarity. Looking at another person can indicate a range of emotions, including hostility, interest, attraction, disgust, and many others. Generally speaking, it is important to maintain eye contact with the person communicating, but again, this largely depends on the culture of a particular region. Appearances significantly alter physiological reactions, judgment, and interpretations. They are mostly personal in nature. Even different colors are known to invoke different moods in the person, as well as his or her surroundings, and they supposedly reveal the attitude of the person wearing them.
It is often said that the first impression is the best impression. Impression refers to the overall desired public image, such as competence, attractiveness, virtue, etc. It is the perception of others about you, based on the nonverbal communication transmitted by you. So your image is well defined with your appearance. Your appearance acts as a mirror of your behavior to make impressions. In job situations, impression plays a major role in the success of one's career. It is very difficult to change the first impression formed by someone. Positive impression helps in building a rapport among the people of the organization. To make a good impression, one should look fit, present appropriately for appropriate situations, maintain a good body language and posture, give firm handshakes, be positive.
The very first time you meet somebody, that person evaluates you and forms an opinion of you in the first few seconds based on your appearance, body language, mannerisms, demeanor, and how well dressed you are.
Body language is the message transmitted by our body. There is a saying that actions speak more than words, and this is done by the body language. It was researched that body language constitutes 50% or more of what we are communicating. So one should be careful while using body language because it provides clues about the attitude or state of mind of a person. Body language can be distinguished into two types: parts of the body, intent. Parts of the body. Each part of the body, starting from the head to the toe, communicates some message with their movements. These parts of the body are grouped as the head. Movement of the head explains our feelings and emotions. For example, if you are sad or have done something wrong, your head will be bent down. Facial expressions. Facial expressions include movement of eyebrows, eyes, nose, lip, tongue, and jaw. Movement of each part transmits a different message. Body posture. Body posture tells about the way we move our hands and legs. It includes body proximity, shoulder movements, arm placement, leg and feet placement. Hand and finger gestures. The movements of hands and fingers in different ways are called gestures. Each gesture intends a different meaning. Handling objects. Messages can also be transmitted by the way we use or hold objects like pens, etc. Though it is not a body part, it plays a major role in reading the body language. Intent. Intent speaks about the movements of the body that helps in transmitting the message. It is classified into two groups: voluntary, intentional movements, involuntary movements. Voluntary, intentional movements. We would have seen people moving their hands while explaining something. These types of movements are called voluntary movements. These movements have some meaning, and that is the reason why they are used. Involuntary movements. Involuntary movements are movements that take place out of control of someone. Modulation of tone, sweating out of fear, breathing, shaky voice, etc. fall in this category.
Body language is a form of nonverbal language that either confirms or contradicts the words people speak. It takes observation, time, and experience to pick and identify the subtle nuances which are based on a person's posture, eye contact, hand gestures, speech, tone of voice. Given here are some of the most common signs and signals that tell you more about a person's feelings. Some common signs and signals that indicate whether the person is feeling confident or not are erect posture, direct eye contact, smiling face, deliberate hand gestures, and slow and clear speech with moderate to low tones. Some common signs and signals that indicate whether the person is feeling uneasy or defensive are small hand gestures, close contact of arms to the body, crossed arms, minimal facial expressions, physically turned away body, and minimal eye contact or downcast eyes. Some common signs and signals that indicate whether the person is disinterested or disengaged are drooping heads and shoulders, glazed or drowsy eyes, hands busy with scribbling or unconsciously fiddling with clothes or pen, and a slumped posture. Some common signs and signals that indicate whether the person is lying are little to no eye contact, rapid blinking and rapid eye movements, constricted pupils, hands on mouth, nose, or ears when speaking, body physically turned away, increased respiration and perspiration, color changes in complexion as in blushing or going red in the face or neck region, and sharp changes in the pitch of the voice or stammering or throat clearing. Some common signs and signals that indicate whether the person is thinking, recalling, reflecting, or contemplating his or her response are narrowed and diverted eyes inclined upwards. The person maintains eye contact once ready with a response. In addition to this, other signs include stroking the chin with fingers and touching the cheek with the head slightly inclined.
In the previous modules, we have discussed that effective listening helps in communicating better. Now, let us know what is good listening. People say that good listeners listen with their faces. It means that good listeners not only use their ears to listen, but they use all the parts of the face. So, if we are good listeners, our eyes will watch the person, our ears will listen to the person, our lips will be closed, our hands and legs will be still, our brain will understand what the listener says. A good listener looks at the speaker, reacts to the message, pays close attention, does not interrupt the speaker, does not rush the speaker, asks appropriate questions, controls his/her emotions.
Listening is a vital skill in communication. Listening skills bear a serious influence on the job effectiveness and quality of relationships. The purpose of listening is to obtain information, seek understanding, gain enjoyment, inherit knowledge, receive guidance, instructions. Active listening is a skill to be learnt and developed. The 5 key elements of active listening are: pay attention, show that you are listening, provide feedback, avoid interruption, respond appropriately.
Unlike verbal communication, nonverbal communication depends on perception of the people. Thus, it makes understanding nonverbal communication tricky. The barriers of nonverbal communication are differences of perceptions, rushed conclusions, lack of knowledge, cultural differences, deceptive gestures, emotions, personality, stress, etc.
The communication barriers that are mostly likely to occur while listening are interrupting the speaker, getting distracted from the ongoing communication, asking too many questions as if to distract, probe, disprove the speaker, ignoring the speaker's questions or feedback, completing the thoughts of the speaker too often, avoiding eye contact with the speaker, rushing the speaker to conclude his communication, yawning or looking bored of the communication, reacting in a hostile manner towards the speaker or the message being communicated, forgetting the thread of communication, cultural and regional differences.
Nonverbal communication is especially significant in intercultural situations. The nonverbal differences are likely to account for typical difficulties in communicating. Let us consider the nonverbal communication of maintaining eye contact through a scenario.
Hi Ocean, I'm Rita. I attended your seminar at the international conference last month. It was good.
Thank you, Rita. I hope it was useful.
What's up with her? Why doesn't she look at me? Is she trying to avoid me?
Clearly, Ocean's demureness was misinterpreted as avoidance and rudeness by Rita. This is because in Western countries, seeing eye to eye while speaking is emphasized on a great deal. But in countries like Japan, people tend to avoid eye contact by lowering their eyes as a token of respect towards the other person. Thus, being unaware of cultural differences often results in misunderstanding.
Now that we have come to the end of the module, let us recall the important points that we have discussed. Nonverbal communication is the process of conveying the message to the recipient in the non-word format. Nonverbal communication includes facial expression, eye contact, gestures, posture, proximity, paralinguistics, haptics, and appearance. Impression refers to the overall desired public image, such as competence, attractiveness, virtue, etc. Body language is the message transmitted by our body. It was researched that body language constitutes 50% or more of what we are communicating. Body language can be distinguished into two types: parts of the body, intent.
With this, we come to the end of the topic on nonverbal communication skills. Let us recall the key points of this topic. Nonverbal communication is sending and receiving messages in a variety of ways without the use of verbal codes or words. The most important types of nonverbal communication include facial expressions, gestures, body language, posture, proxemics, paralinguistics, eye contact, and appearance. First impressions play a major role in forming opinions and relationships. Factors that contribute towards creating impressions include appearance, body language, mannerisms, demeanor, and dressing sense. Body languages are subtle nuances that reveal a person's thoughts and feelings. The major elements that make up the body language are posture, eye contact, hand gestures, speech, and tone of voice.